I want to talk about forgiveness. I came to America in 1981 when I was 7 years old. And obviously, I didn't know anything about the culture, the language, anything, right? But in a few years, by the time I was 10 years old, I love football, baseball, basketball. I love American movies, Top Gun, E.T., right? I was into politics. I was a Reaganite at the age of 10. Now, my politics have changed a little bit, but my point is I was like really, really into the American culture, right? And part of my education as an American was that I believe a parent was supposed to, I don't know, love your child unconditionally, right? Give them a hug when the child is crying, hurt, or down. Give them a kiss, right, on the forehead or cheek or whatever. And tell them I love you, like constantly, right? That was my upbringing as an American kid. And because of that, I had a very tough relationship with my mom and dad. My mom and dad came from communist China. They came from extreme poverty. They came from war. They were born before World War II, but as a child, they grew up during World War II. And then for the next 30 years, they grew up with extreme poverty, a lot of upheaval, right? Cultural revolution, the Great Leap Forward. That's when millions of Chinese died from starvation. I didn't really talk to my mom and dad too much about those periods, but when they did, they said that food was rationed. Some people die of hunger. And looking back at the pictures of us before we came to the States, we were like sticks, like literally malnourished sticks. So I had this expectation of my mom and dad being an American kid, but at the same time, they grew up in a different society, right? And they grew up with constant hardship, war, famine, poverty. And they treated us not the way an American parent would treat us. So my expectation of my mom and dad was that they should be like any other American parent. They should say goodnight to me when I sleep, kiss me, give me a hug, whatever. And instead, my mom and dad, they would yell at me. They would tell me rough words like how stupid I was. Very often. Like I'm just not smart, right? So my mom and dad had a different way of parenting. They didn't believe in the hugging, kissing, I love you. They never said I love you. I mean, they do now. Well, my dad passed away, but my mom does say I love you to me now. But growing up as a kid, they never said that. They never said I love you. They never gave me a hug, or my sisters, right, and my brother. And it was just the way they parent. That's how they grew up in the old country. But I didn't know that, right? I didn't know that. And I was okay with that. I was okay with them not hugging me, not saying I love you. Like that didn't really bother me. Like I didn't not like my mom and dad because they didn't say I love you or gave me a hug. Like I understood that part, right? They were just different. But they yell a lot though. They yell a lot. So when we make mistakes, they would yell at us, especially me being the youngest child. I make a lot of clumsy mistakes. They would yell at me a lot, right? They would call me stupid. A lot. A lot. Even my mom said a few times, I wish you were never born. And I don't know if she knew that was very hurtful, but I would go to my room and cry. Like cry for hours when she said that. And I think she said that not because maybe she meant it at that time. I think she was just out of frustration. We grew up very poor in the United States, in poverty. We struggled daily. Food was not easy to come by. So we were kind of unhappy, right? We were struggling financially every day for a long time. So we were like unhappy. And we had family issues also with my aunt that supported us coming to the States. So I think that's why she said those things. But of course I didn't know it at that time, right? And because my mom and dad would yell at me a lot, curse me, even spank me a few times, I really, really hated them for that. I really thought they were awful parents. That my expectation of parent, which I grew up watching American TV, American movies, they were not remotely a semblance of that, right? So I hated them for that. I hated them for treating me badly. And I promised myself since I was in junior high that once I graduated from high school, I would leave. I would not see my mom and dad again. And I did that. A couple weeks after high school ended, I left. I moved out. One of my best friends and I found a tiny apartment and we became roommates. Now, when I moved out, it didn't take long for me to go back to my mom and dad's house. Because I had a job, but it paid very little. And of course, I still had to pay school, right? Even though I had some tuition covered by the state because I was a poor kid from a poor family. I had no food to eat. I literally had no food to eat. So I would go back to my mom and dad's house. And I would eat there, and they knew I was hungry, and they would feed me. But here's an interesting thing. My relationship with my mom and dad changed when I left. Because I wasn't living with my mom and dad every day anymore, they kind of stopped yelling at me. Like, I wouldn't say they completely stopped, but they basically stopped, right? And they treated me with more respect. They treated me more like a man. And my understanding of my mom and dad changed too. Instead of looking at them like, oh, they're just awful parents, they didn't know how to parent, they're just bad parents, I started understanding where they come from. I started asking them about their past, right? How they grew up in China during the Cultural Revolution, during the Great Leap Forward. What was it like for our family? What was it like for our neighbors? What was it like for the country? And I learned a lot. I knew some of it from reading, but I didn't know like the intimate history of my family until I asked them these questions. And once I asked them these questions, I understood that not that the way they parent was the right parenting, but they were parenting because that's how they knew how to parent, right? They parented, they yell, they scream, they curse, because that's what they knew, right? And I'm not condoning it per se that's the right way to do it, but I'm just saying I understood. And because I understood why they were like that, I forgave them. I forgave my parents. And once I forgave my parents, I started loving them back. Not that my love for my parents ever went away, but it was suppressed, right? It was suppressed. It was layered with hate, if that makes sense. I hated my parents. That's why I left after high school. But once I forgave them, that layer of hate was gone, and the love was back, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I love my parents to death, you know? I love them a lot. I love them so much. And they love me too, and they always love me. And I think they kind of realized too, after I left, that they should treat me a little bit differently as well. And they've done that to me and my other siblings. So we're all good now. My mom constantly says she loves me. And of course, I say I love her. So yeah, so that's my story of forgiveness. So yeah, if you are in a relationship with a family member that has gone through a lot of struggle, try to find some way to forgive them if you can. You know, especially if there's a good reason to. Especially if they had a tough upbringing, childhood. Again, not to condone it, but there's a reason for it, you know? It's not easy to change. It's not easy to be the prototypical mom and dad that you wish for or dream of. You have to accept them for who they are. And I do. And because of that, our relationship is so much better for it.